Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everyone. So first thing first, I would like to say thank you for browsing into the video. Today we are going to look into chapter 8, which is respiratory system in human and animals. Our subtopic is 8.1, types of respiratory system. I believe you already get yourself prepared to learn. So let's get started. Now I have prepared 5 pictures here, and I need you to observe those pictures and identify the difference between them. So of course, the pictures show the respiratory system in humans and animals. But there is something you have to think about. Why are they different? Okay, before we go further, let us first look into the learning objective in order for you to have an overview what you need to achieve by the end of the lesson. The first one, you should be able to identify the respiratory structures in insects, fish, amphibians, and human. Second, you have to be able to describe the adaptation of respiratory structures and their function for gases exchange in animals and humans. The last one is you need to be able to compare and contrast respiratory structures in humans and animals. So previously, you have learned about respiratory organs and system in human and animals in Form 3. So by the time, you should know that various organisms have a various structural adaptation to maximize the rate of gases exchange. Now, what is gases exchange? Gases exchange is a process of oxygen uptake from environment and release carbon dioxide to environment by living organism. The respiratory structures on living organisms facilitate gas exchange between cells and the environment, mainly through diffusion. So, you have also learned in Team 1 Chapter 2 that amoeba and other unicellular organisms do not need a special respiratory structure because they rely on diffusion for gases exchange due to their large surface area to volume ratio, which is called as TSA over V. The ratio of total surface area to volume varies with organism size, which means the larger the size of organism, the smaller total of surface area to volume ratio. This means that for large and complex organisms like us, human, and also animals, big animals such as elephant, the volume in the body that require oxygen increase more than its total surface area. Thus, they cannot rely on diffusion through body surface for gases exchange. Instead, they need efficient respiratory structures for gases exchange. Now let us move to the respiratory structure and its adaptation, starting with insects. For these subpoints, we only focus on grasshopper. It's almost the same for insects as well. The body of insects are protected by exoskeleton made of chitin, which is impermeable to gases. So the respiratory system of insect is tracheal system. The system consists of a complex network of trachea and tracheole that deliver oxygen at every cell of the body. So there are small spores in the thorax and abdomen of the insect called spiracles. It is allowing the intake of air into the tracheal system. The trachea branch out to form finer tubes called the tracheole, which is the respiratory surface. The adaptation of tracheole that allow for efficient respiratory gases exchange a large number of tracheoles provide a large total surface for the exchange of the gases. Then, it has thin and moist wall to allow oxygen gas to diffuse into the cell, while carbon dioxide quickly diffuse out to the cell into the tracheal. Some insects have air sacs filled with air in the trachea system to speed up the delivery of respiratory gas during active body movements. So, the pathway of the oxygen diffusion from environment to the tracheal system is from spiracle into the trachea, into the tracheal, until it reaches the body cells. Next, let's take a look into the respiratory structure and its adaptation of fish. Fish are multicellular aquatic animals that breathe through the gills. Most fish have 4 gills that are protected by operculum on each side of the pharynx. Now, the gills are made out of line of filaments supported by gill arch. Filaments are responsible for the gases exchange, thus becoming the fish respiratory structure. The adaptation filaments are it has many thin and flat projections called lamella. A large number of filaments and lamella give a large total surface for an efficient gas exchange process. The lamellar membrane is thin and supplied with many blood capillaries for easy absorption and transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So basically, the adaptation for respiratory structure is the same: thin wall, numerous of blood capillaries, and also large total surface area. We are now moving into the frog respiratory structure and its adaptation. Most amphibians have a respiratory structure adapted for gases exchange on land and in water. So on land, frog uses their moist skin and lungs for gases exchange. But in water, the frog are less active, so the gases exchange occur by skin. So the respiratory structure of frog are moist skin and lungs. Now we first look into skin. The skin is thin and highly permeable to respiratory gases, which helps in increasing the rate of diffusion of gases. The frog skin mucus glands release mucus to ensure the skin always moist to dissolve respiratory gases. It is also contain many networks of blood capillaries beneath the skin to transport respiratory gases. Next is lungs. So, frog lungs are a pair of sex organs connected to its mouth through an opening called glottis that can be opened and closed. The surface of the lung is folded to increase the total surface area for gases exchange. It also has thin lung membrane which allows diffusion of respiratory gases. The lungs is also moist to enable respiratory gases to dissolve and contain numerous network of blood capillaries to transport the gases. Next, we are going to learn about the most familiar respiratory structure and its adaptation, which is human. So by the time you should know that humans need their lungs for respiration, as you have already learned in Form 3. And the alveolus is the respiratory structure in human. Now let's explore the adaptation which increase the diffusion rate of respiratory gases. First one, it has moist wall that allow oxygen and carbon dioxide to dissolve and diffuse into the blood capillaries. The large network of blood capillaries throughout the alveoli surface increase the efficiency of gases exchange and transport of oxygen from alveoli into the body cell wall, then into the blood capillaries. Lastly, the thin wall that is as thick as one cell makes the diffusion of gases much easier. So up to this point, you should remember the general characteristic of the respiratory structure, as almost of them have same characteristic. Firstly, it must have large surface area. Second, it is permeable to respiratory gases. Third, it has to be moist to allow gases to dissolve and diffuse easily. Next, It should have network of blood capillaries underneath for gas transportation, and lastly, has thin walls for the efficiency of gas diffusion. So all the characteristics are very important in respiratory system in order for them to function well. So here you can look at the similarities and differences of the respiratory structure in humans and animals. You may find this table in your textbook on the page 131. So with that, we are done with our lesson. As usual, at the end of subtopic, you are required to do a formative practices. So today, you are going to do this practice 8.1. You may refer the question in your textbook or simply scan the QR code that I have provided in this video. So that's it for our class today, and I hope you can answer all the questions and reflect your understanding with the learning outcomes to evaluate your level of understanding. See you in the next class. Bye.